Does all of our documents. I'll have them just do
All right.
Will they do the plastic part too?
Yeah, they'll shred them up.
Right, we're live.
Okay, we're live. Okay, well, I'd like to go ahead and call our meeting to order for the Board of Commissioners for Whitby Health. Public comments and input are valued, and we'd like to make sure that we have an opportunity. Jake will usually handle those. Hopefully Jake's on there when we get to that point. So Jake will keep us posted on that. But make sure that when you do talk to Jake on any public comments, that you state your name and where you're from and what your topic is. We'll go from there.
3 minutes.
And 3 minute maximum, please. We'll monitor that so we can get through all of our agenda. So at this time, I would like to address the consent agenda. Do we have a motion for the consent agenda?
Move approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Dr. Kammermeyer, you are muted. Okay. I know that we're missing Eric Anderson right now.
Why are we doing
Well, we are. It's an echo. Since Greta got on.
Let's see if we get rid of the echo.
There it is.
Yeah.
Do we have Eric on?
Eric's not on.
Nope.
But we got rid of the echo.
Okay. Do we have any points of order? Hearing none, we'll move on. So at this time, we'll have public comments. Jake, you can kind of monitor that for us.
Jake?
Are you there?
Jake is on the phone.
Doesn't look like Jake has logged in quite yet, but it does not appear that there's anyone who wishes to make a public comment at this time.
Thank you, Melanie. So we'll move on to the medical staff report. Dr. Scheidt. Are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Well, first, I'd like to, I know this is a day before Veterans Day, so I just want to shout out to all our veterans. We have a lot of patients who are veterans and coworkers and colleagues, just to wish them a happy Veterans Day. So before we start. Next, I have just appointments. So initial appointments for Dr. Swain for radiology, Dr. Imagwala for OB-GYN locums, Jeff Carroll, physician assistant for walk-in clinic, Dr. Keating for general surgery, provisional courtesy, Dr. Babazada for general surgery, provisional courtesy, Dr. Jackson for telestroke, and Dr. Mohammed Azala for telestroke. These are all initial appointments.
Move approval of initial appointment.
Second.
Moved and second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So Greta say aye.
Approved. Okay.
Great.
Moving on.
For advancements, we have in our walk-in clinic, nurse practitioner Heather Bivens, and in our wound care, moving to active staff, Shannon Tumblin. The rest of them are for telestroke, provisional courtesy extended, Dr. Burton, Dr. Ogami, Dr. Pandy, Dr. Jordan, Dr. Singh, and Dr. Treat. All for advancements.
Move approval of advancements.
Second.
Moved and second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
So moved.
All right, and the last one is reappointments, Dr. Phelps for emergency medicine active.
Move approval of reappointments.
Second.
Moved and second, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Okay,
And that is all I have at this time.
that's all you have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Was there a proposed policy in there too, Dr. Scheit?
That got tabled till next month, so.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Moving on to staff and status reports from the administration, starting out with HR, Deputy Corey.
Thank you. All right, thank you very much. First, I'd like to start with our updates, recruitment-wise, and where we're at with provider recruiting, and then we'll get into organizational-wide recruitment and specifically the outcomes. Last month. Is there an echo going on?
Yes.
There was initially, I think it's Greta's phone.
Okay, I'll try again.
I'm muted.
Okay.
Okay. Sounds like it's working now. So we are continuing provider recruiting for primary care at Cabot, and we have a new provider joining Freeland. Mark Milliron, a PA, will be starting January 10th. A new provider coming to the walk-in clinics for Oak Harbor and Clinton, and we'll flex between those. And we have 2 newly onboarded per diems for surgery, Doctors Keating and Dr. Babazadeh, and additional midwives being interviewed for women's clinic. And as Dr. Scheit was getting approval for Dr. Amagala, she is a new locums OB/GYN and continuing recruitment in that effort. When we talk about organizational-wide outcomes, I'd like to talk about all the new hires and welcome them by name. And forgive me in advance if I do not say your name correctly. Please do me the favor of getting in touch with me and letting me know. I feel really strongly about using people's preferred names and certainly pronouncing them correctly.
Oh.
Debbie, you muted yourself.
Actually, the host would like to unmute me. I haven't touched
Okay.
the button. Is it working again?
It is.
Yes.
Okay. Dimitri Shubin, Manuel Caballero, Tyrell Bransom, Taddy Cheek, Cameron Perry, Randy Kaysen, Brooke Gilham, Tabitha Whale, Elmira Opias, Carmen Moore, Lisa Renee Laney, Christine Skinner, and Katrina McGranahan. And these are all new to the Whitby Health work family just since our last board meeting. Then the next slide, we're going to talk about all the internal movement, which frankly, we are just as excited about for Colette Ryan, Shannon Donnery, Rebecca Weaver, Cassandra Pendergrass, Dory Painter, Stevie Wallace, Teresa Garrett, Terry Garrett, Matthew Patnon, and Dawn Selgren. And so it's really exciting when we can see the internal movement, promotions, training across departments. And so really enjoy being able to promote this as we go through as well. So welcome to all of those individuals. And I look forward to getting to know the new ones even better. Now, I'd like to talk about performance management module we discussed last time. We are adding a module to our HRIS, Human Resource Information System, that we use. Is called Kronos, and we're going to be doing performance management through there. We're going to roll performance management to a Q1 cycle. We had talked about rolling this out by the end of the year. Still on track for that, but we're also building into it a goal section as we've been discussing the rollout of the new strategic plan that ELT presented. Now we will look at departmental goals and allow for individual goals to be added into that same module. So really excited about all the work that specifically Murray Hubiak and Allie Huffman are putting into that effort. They're Kronos geeks, and I mean that in a good way. And Office 365 is going to bring the ability for us to turn on HR help email so that you can just contact the HR help email address, and it will work like a ticketing system. And that'll be great because one, we can also use it as a metric similar to how IT is able to track how many new open tickets they have, how many they're processing a day. There are a lot of HR efforts that walk in the door, come in the phone, come in by email that I think can be underestimated, similar to the IT help desk, and that this should, one, help in showing the efforts going on there, but also make it easier for any employee, board member, anybody in the community trying to get information out of HR. Instead of figuring out who to go to, you go to the help email box, and we will be able to respond from there, and they'll be distributed to the people in the individual subject matter expertise, because we've really been working on breaking down the silos in HR instead of having these specialists, and when one's out, you can't get help for a week if they're on vacation. Instead, a lot of cross-training continuing in the department. And so the HR help is going to feed into that as well. Open enrollment is coming soon. And so we'll be opening that next week for employees' sake. There'll be messaging going out. The noteworthy news around that is that as is true in healthcare across the nation, the expenses have continued to go up, and our stop loss was off by about $700,000. And so some of that may be reflected in the upcoming enrollment and what the fees will be for either employee will be the same, but what we're looking at, spouse, children, families, et cetera. And so we'll be messaging all that and getting out the new benefit books, and the open enrollment will be open for 3 weeks. It's basically a passive enrollment in that the plans are staying the same, but we want to be sure that everybody understands the cost and the difference. And it's always a nice opportunity to highlight what the choices are between plans and benefits, and highlight some of all of our voluntary plans like pet insurance, AFLAC. I can't say that without saying AFLAC. So it's a good time to go over all that. So expect to hear more about that as well. And in some of our miscellaneous news, I want to talk about the efforts of Loretta Robin, who is our volunteer coordinator, but has this crazy bandwidth. And even as she's busy bringing volunteers back into the organization, she's been taking on the student process and other pieces of HR generalist duties. And just since our last meeting and continuing that effort, she has onboarded 3 new volunteers that are actually just finishing the clearance process, and 6 more in hospice onboarding clearance process. And so we're getting volunteers on the average of 4 days a week, both at the medical center for concierge services, and about 3 to 4 hours a day. And so when you think about all of those hours and the people putting into it, we're grateful for the community and the volunteers, and just want to call that out. And then we have a newest connection that she recently established with Coopville's school district's transition specialist, Erin Straub, and that helps with adult education participants develop real life skills through volunteer work. And we will have our first 2 partnerships, hopefully this month yet. And so we're hoping, obviously, that will be an ongoing partnership and really a win-win situation where they get those training opportunities and we have these additional volunteers. We're currently working with department managers to identify new areas and use for volunteers. And so keep those requests coming. It's been fun working with them and getting the whole program back off the ground. In the next slide, we'll start looking at stats. Want to look at termination reasons. Want to talk both about what you can read in the pie chart in terms of the reasons and where the large chunks are. These percentages represent 171 termed employees. Now that's excluding the layoff that happened back earlier in the year. Systematically, Kronos, the system that we use, is unable to pull the average headcount out. So just for a reference point and understanding, today's head count is 668 employees. And while our people are doing the very best with the HRIS system, it would remain on our dream list to get a more robust one like Workday or PeopleSoft, which would make all this reporting much, much easier. It's interesting what goes on behind the scenes in that. If you go to the next slide and we start looking at terminations by department, and this is a specific thank you to Commissioner for asking for a little deeper dive. So Commissioner Blankenship, here are the terminations by department. And as a reference point, so this graph shows a number of terms, and it's obvious that there are more terms, for example, in inpatient care, medical, surgical, and primary care CABIT, but that's also because there are more employees in those areas. So an inpatient care, medical, surgical has 16 terms, and primary CABIT had 43, and today's head count for inpatient is 55 and 43 in primary care CABIT. So it's difficult to pull more out, but we'll be working on that with even greater granularity for next month. If you go to the next slide and you look at terminations by manager, again, it highlights that there's far more employees who were termed that reported to Curtis Shoemate, who you see the top bar there. Curtis is one of the largest departments in the organization. So again, it's difficult to have this graph across. So what we can do is further deep dive into those, maybe the highest and the lowest, to give you within those areas a glance of what those independent resignation reasons are. So we track it, and also information that we get out of the exit interviews. If there's an area that's problematic, of course, we speak with that manager and their chief first and work to make those improvements. And so this is a nice representative of what's going on there. And I know that was a lot of information in pretty quick order, but I'd like to pause and ask if there are any questions.
Thank you, Debbie, for the termination info. It's very helpful and interesting.
Thank you.
Particularly as we track it going forward.
Yes. Thank you, everybody.
So any more questions for her? Moving on to our finance, Jennifer.
Yes, hello everybody. Can you hear me okay? I don't have the best microphone here, so.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, very good. Now I'm going to change my view because I can't see my slides, Melanie. Okay. Onward and upward. So first thing we'll look at is inpatient utilization. You can see in the month of October, our admissions were down over September. Year to date, though, we're trending towards just a little bit under our target of 1,644 admissions. Our average length of stay is looking like it's going to end up about 3.23. And on the patient days side, you can see we have a lot more patient days projected than our target, and we have quite a few more patient days in the month of October related to the number of patients. That's because we've had quite a number of patients staying for longer periods of time. You can see here in the critical care row, we had 113 days of patients, those 6 patients that were in critical care. So that's quite a long length of stay. Our average daily census in October was 16.1 and trending to end the year a little over our target of at 14.3. So that's quick. Any questions about the inpatient utilization? Nope. No. And outpatient, we're looking about the same things here in the first section up here is the emergency room together with the walk-in clinics. You can see that we are way under target. That that is mainly due to the fact that we had a really aggressive target for our walk-in clinics. So as we budget this year, I think we'll have a better target next year for that. Emergency room.
Emergency room.
Uh-oh. Now I've got it.
Now I've got it.
I'll try to talk over it. And underneath here, we have all of our ancillary, or most of our ancillary, mostly trending over target until we get down to surgeries and the primary visits. Here in hospice, I actually did just get the numbers. So let me really quick. That is, and hospice is trending to end about 21% over target this year. We had 1,223 visits for the month of October. So that's quick and dirty. Any questions about the outpatient?
I do. I have a couple of questions.
Okay, sure.
There is no information about the hospice for October?
Right. So I was just telling you, I didn't have the information when we prepared the slides, but hospice did have 1,223 visits in October, and they're trending to be way over budget, 21% over budget. I'll send you out this new slide. Other questions, Greta? Nope. Okay, and then on to the finances, to the income statement. Here in September, we didn't do as well as the month before. We had quite a lot of expenses coming in and ended up on the cash side at $2.3 million of a loss. Add depreciation to that, and we really took a hit in September at $2.7 million loss. Year to date, though, better than budget. Our net patient revenue is coming in just a little bit over our budget, and total expenses here at just a little, again, over our budget. And we're ending up year to date at $1 million loss. Questions about that one? Oh.
No, but I do have, I keep on getting muted.
I think it's causing a echo, that's all.
I think somebody's trying to turn me off. One of the things I'd like to sort of think a little bit about had to do with the walk-in clinics.
Yep.
Because the numbers in October look like they're really quite decreased in the Clinton clinic. And I'm wondering if there is some way to inform on how many providers one has when we have these numbers, because the clinic numbers were, I mean, we had one provider in and that makes it very difficult.
Yes, that's correct. Greta, they really suffered from a lack of.
No, go that way. You're going to hit the side of the car.
Oh. And I'm sure that Dr. Miller can speak a little bit to that, but we can add providers to our presentation. That's no problem.
I'm not sure we're comparing apples to apples here.
Right.
Both walk-in clinics formerly were primary care clinics and were staffed differently, had different volumes. The walk-in clinics are new operations. I'd have to look into this further, but what we've seen is steady growth in both walk-in clinics since they've opened up and operated as walk-in clinics. We have not seen a drop.
No, but I think she's talking about the October numbers for Clinton. And I know was the provider. I think that's. But we'll dig into it.
Okay, thank you.
And then if we can look at the balance sheet.
We're having a lot of problems.
A lot of echo.
A lot of echo going on. It's really, under the whole finance thing, we've had a hard time understanding what's going on because we got a mass amount of echo.
It is. I think it was Greta's.
Yeah, it was Greta's phone.
Question. So it's better now, I think.
It is.
Do you want me to go back to anything or?
No, I just want to follow up on something you said, Garth, and I think this is Greta's point. That looking at September to October, there's a drop off in walk-in clinic volume, and obviously the walk-in clinics were operating as such in September.
Yeah,
yeah, we may be seeing.
Yeah.
We may be seeing a seasonal effect with the departure of summer visitors. We just don't have long enough track records to really know for sure at this point.
And as you point out, I guess we'd have to go back to when they were regular clinics and see if there was a seasonal effect from September, October in those numbers.
We need another year before we can really do that.
It's really hard that you cannot compare ourselves. Clinton just opened up. I will say that we are thinking of closing Clinton on Sundays. It doesn't seem to be having that much activity, and it may free up some short staff that we have. So we are looking into that.
And maybe reopen in the summer.
Or reopen in the summer. Right.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, it's what we have to do.
Right. Sure.
Any other questions about the income statement?
Any questions?
Go on to the balance sheet. There's your standard balance sheet. Again, we're still struggling with cash here at 10.6 days. Our accounts receivable is going down quite a bit. And that is due to some better collections on the front end on the first 60 days. And also, as I mentioned last month, we'd probably be writing down some of that older stuff, and that you're seeing a little bit of that there, ending up at 47.8 days. Let's see some interesting things to note here on the current liabilities. We'll be paying our bond payments at the end of the month on the 30th. So that's something on my mind, but we have the money to do that. So it's good. And let's see what else. I can't think of anything coming up real urgently. We have been holding a bit of our accounts payable just to counteract some of our cash issues. So those are a little high right now, but we'll start to pay those down as we receive our settlement money and our tax levy money from this year. So are there questions about that or something you'd like to see more on the balance sheet?
Jeff, I have a question about, which is probably on the minds of a lot of people, is now that the levy increase has passed, when will we begin to see that money?
So the biggest effect we'll see will come next May when everybody pays their first part property taxes. That's when we'll see the effects of that levy increase. We see big deposits in May and in November. That's, of course, coincides with the first and second half of your property taxes being due. We do get it all along through the year. Just as people are paying their property tax, we receive whatever our share is. But again, in May next year and in November next year, that's when we'll see the biggest benefit.
Okay, thank you.
Good question. I mean, I think a lot of people are thinking that we're getting the money right now.
Right.
No.
And it's not in pay. So
That was my point in asking.
yes, that's very smart.
And in fact, later on, you'll be looking at the resolutions for the new tax and for next year's taxes at the end of the meeting with Jake. And that goes into effect in January, and then they award it to you. And then of course, as people pay their taxes, we receive it. Any other questions?
Yeah, I just had a question about the write-offs at the beginning.
Yes.
Is that number creeping up?
I wouldn't say creeping up. And so what I do is I look at our gross accounts receivable at the end of the month, and then I what I report to you is what we're expecting to receive on those gross receivables, and we just do a write down as they get older. Sometimes they'll fall off to bad debt, but I don't think it's getting necessarily any larger than I've noticed before. We did. I guess when I was talking about it last month and I said, we got to watch and see what's happening, we might have a bigger write down. When I did the calculation this month, we had already taken care of that. So we didn't have a big write down like that. I hope that makes sense.
Thank you.
Jennifer and
Yes.
Melanie, if you could pull up the outpatient utilization slide again. I think we can answer that question that the commissioners had about the volumes in the walk-in clinics. If you look at the blue area, the second line, Oak Harbor Walk-in Clinic, and the blue area under 2021, it says this is year-to-date visits, 4762. If you go to the left along that row to 2020, you see last year's year-to-date. We're well exceeding last year. Same thing with the next row down on Clinton. If you look at year-to-date in 2021 in the blue area, it says 3,439 visits year-to-date. Last year, it was 1,295. So we are seeing dramatic increases in utilization of the walk-in clinics right now compared to last year.
I'm spending a lot of time there myself with my friends.
So unless there's any other questions, that's all I have for you today. I showed you the cash flow last month that coincides with this already, showing that I expect to end the year with 24 days of cash on hand. Any other questions?
Yeah, Jennifer, you should go to the finance group and ask them to buy you a better mic. So that we can hear you if we're going to be.
Can you hear me now?
And then any word, I know that, Rick Larson and Patty Murray and Marie Cantwell have been working on helping us out a lot. Yep. Have we any word back where things are at with that?
The last phone call we had with the group that's tracking that, it was optimistic about that, and I think that the infrastructure bill that just passed the House is part of that. So that $500,000 will all be part of that larger federal infrastructure bill.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to kind of track that a little bit. I know Rick Larson's been working, trying to help us out.
Yep, and then we also have a commerce grant that we're in the process of. That's coming. Thanks to Tim, that's helping with the work that's happening on the roof that's making my office so loud today. But that's through the state. So the one we're talking about with Larson is actually through the federal government. So.
Right.
Jennifer, one last question. When do we expect the Medicare cost report? Sometime before the end of the year?
Yes, any day now I'm expecting that.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other questions? What?
who really has helped us and in an amazing way. And Senator, is it Senator Murray or
Murray.
or Murray?
What was it, Cantwell?
Have both really stepped up.
Yeah.
So that's really helpful.
Yeah, for a small rural hospital to get the help from those three has been great.
Mr. Larson has been a great friend of the hospital.
Yeah.
Agreed. Any other questions for me?
No, when you gonna double digs on cash on hand?
I'm trying. I'm trying.
As soon as the Medicare cost report comes in.
That's right. Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you.
Moving on to Dr. Miller, outpatient clinic report.
Hi. Significant developments. We had our RHC surveys a couple of weeks ago. For those who aren't familiar with RHCs, rural health clinics are a federally designated clinic that is licensed by the federal government, operates under special rules and reimbursement scheme that makes them more favorable in rural environments. Have to be located in medically underserved and rural areas with a high level of Medicare and Medicaid patients. We have 5 RHCs in our system. Our 2 primary care clinics in Cabot and Freeland, our women's care clinic, and our 2 walk-in clinics. They are all rural health clinics. They've all been certified by the Department of Health. 3 of them have been accredited by a company called the Compliance Team, which accredits rural health clinics and provides evidence of having achieved higher standards than basic licensure. It's similar to DNV or Joint Commission. 3 of our clinics were accredited 3 years ago. That would be Cabot, Freeland, and Women's Care. The 2 walk-in clinics had never been accredited before. We had the surveyors come in and evaluate all 5 of our clinics 2 weeks ago. The overall results were really, really exemplary. They found that our policies and procedures, our documentation, our oversight and reporting, our emergency preparedness, and our HR policies were all outstanding with no deficiency whatsoever. We had 1 minor facility deficiency in Oak Harbor where we had a biohazard bin that was not in a locked space, which we easily corrected by putting a lock on the cabinet. In several of the clinics we had, well actually all the clinics, they were able to find some supplies that were outdated. These are all sterile supplies that had just been left in the clinics beyond their official expiration date, and we've removed those, and we've changed our policies to do a better job of tracking those and removing them. In 1 clinic, Cabot, they did find a single outdated medication, and that is a more serious finding that required us to do some further investigation. Our current policy was to have our pharmacy team do those medication outdates, and due to human error, that single medication vial was missed. So we did a root cause analysis, and we created a backup system so that the clinic staff would also be checking for medication outdates. We created a new policy, we created some new forms, and hopefully that will be that will have that issue resolved for us. Any questions on the RHC surveys?
Questions? Garth, does that happen every year, or will it be 2 years before it's done again?
It's actually every 3 years. It's a triannual accreditation process. Good question.
No, just good work.
Yes.
Well, thank you. It was really
it was good work. It was good leadership by Garth and the team. It really is astounding what they accomplished, and HR had a big part of it. as did facilities, and we being very transparent. We had one finding, even though it's a serious, it's been, as Garth said, it's been remedied, and for sure won't happen again.
And thanks to the quality department and Shanna for really supporting us. Okay, so moving on to the clinics, to continue on Cabot, we had an outside consultant, Midmar consultant, come in and review our Cabot operation. They're our biggest clinic, our busiest clinic, and clearly potentially the opportunity for most improvement if we were going to make any operational or structural changes. And what the main findings that they related to us were that we do, in fact, truly do need more providers there. I guess that wasn't a big surprise. We need at least 3 more providers to keep up with the already existing patients and additional providers if we're going to provide growth and expand to new patients. And we have one provider who's signed and will be joining us in January. We have contract negotiations with 2 additional providers, and we're opening up a rec for an additional provider so that we can hopefully actually open up to new patients and have some more growth in the Cabot clinic sometime hopefully early next year. Cabot phone systems, problems you all know about. They have dramatically improved through the hard work of Brett Mello and his team. Things are quite a bit better now just over the past few weeks. Hopefully we'll be seeing a lot fewer patient satisfaction issues going forward here in this regard. Similarly, our computer hardware and software and connectivity issues are just gradually, steadily improving. Again, with all the hard work that Brett Mello and our IT team are doing. Staffing is improving, but we still are short-staffed in Cabot. Actually, we're short-staffed in all of our clinics. Moving on to Freeland, staffing has improved in Freeland. We have a 3rd provider. You've heard PA Miliron, who's coming in January. Freeland is seeing, does have openings for new patients. So patients that are new and want to come into our system can come into Freeland. Women's has had severe staffing shortage issues. It continues. You've heard Debbie's efforts to resolve that. We did have a very favorable interview with a OBGYN MD just this past week, and we're having an interview of a nurse midwife next week. So there's hope there as well. And we have a locums that is on board now to help us fill in the gaps. Women's is open for new patients despite our staffing issues, so that's something to keep in mind as well. Our walk-in clinic staffing has significantly improved. As Debbie mentioned, we have new providers and staff, and this should allow for better patient satisfaction in terms of shorter wait times and improved patient experience, and allow for us to grow further. So that's exciting. Surgery and orthopedics are combining their locations to mainly deal with the short staffing issue. We just don't have enough staff to keep them separate. They're combining. That should go into place in January. We are interviewing a 2nd orthopedic physician's assistant next week as well. The MAC oncology clinic also has some open positions. We really need an oncology pharmacist to station in the clinic to help with all the oncology medications. The MAC clinic is now open for allergy shots. So people in the community that don't want to go off island for allergy shots can come to our MAC oncology clinic and receive them there. Our MAC Wound clinic is doing well, showing steady growth. We are recruiting our per diem general surgeons to staff that clinic as well. In our sleep lab and clinic, we also are severely short-staffed, but we do have some new people that we're just now onboarding. And we're looking at combining the oversight or leadership of that clinic as well to deal with the short staffing situation. I also oversee the 4 departments of pharmacy, rehab, lab, and DI. Pharmacy has many open positions that they're dealing with. They did, despite their staffing issue, they were able to open a retail pharmacy. The retail pharmacy is doing well and growing. At the pharmacy there, we can now offer COVID and flu vaccines. That just started this week. We hope to stock in-home COVID test kits there as soon as we can get a supply. Things are going well with the pharmacy, new pharmacy. In our rehabilitation department, they recently consolidated from their north campus to their main campus. That's going very well. It's improved staffing and staff morale. We're working, Annalise DeWolf, the director, she's working hard to try to consolidate and improve efficiencies in the life center as well as in the rehab department. We have over a year backlog of patients awaiting for pediatric rehab. We're recruiting another pediatric physical therapist and changing the model to try to help patients get through a little more quickly. The lab is very short staffed. There are 8 open positions there. Stevie, our manager, is doing what she can to hold the fort down. We may have to outsource some laboratory tests that formerly were done in-house if we cannot fill these positions soon. We're seeking bids to replace aging chemistry analyzers. We've had 2 bids. We're trying to get a 3rd one, and then we'll hopefully know which direction we're going to go forward with these very expensive machines. In diagnostic imaging, we have multiple open positions. We had trouble with our PACS system. That's the picture archiving and communication system, which was down for almost 2 weeks, but it is now up and running. We have an ongoing issue with an excessive long wait list for people waiting to get their diagnostic imaging studies scheduled. We're working really hard to resolve that. One of the key things is redirecting staff that is currently spending time arranging for outpatient drive-through COVID swabbing to redirect them towards scheduling patients awaiting their diagnostic imaging studies. We're training in-house staff to help with this and trying to recruit another DI specialist as well. New things in DI, Dr. Corson, our outpatient cardiologist, his volume of outpatient stress tests, stress cardiac echoes, and nuclear medicine tests continues to grow. That seems to be doing well. We are in the process of starting an event monitoring program, and there'll be more to come on that. Any questions?
No, Dr. Miller, to help out though, the board has decided that we're going to loan you Nancy for pharmacy, and Dr. Kammemeyer is going to go back to the nursing with Aaron. So the board just wanted to do our part, and Kurt made a motion, I seconded it, and then it was unanimous.
We'll come in our wheelchairs.
Yeah.
We'll take you.
I do have a question.
Yes, ma'am. Breaking up.
No,
You're froze up and you're broken up.
Was a discussion about orthopedics, perhaps.
Dr. Kammemeyer, we can't hear anything you're saying.
Outpatient procedures.
Brad, we missed that whole question. You broke up and we couldn't hear you.
Must be in a bad reception area.
She's in her car.
Yeah, but she's in a bad reception area. Greta, I think you're in a bad reception area. We cannot hear you. We can see you, but we can't hear you.
Okay.
So forget it.
Okay. Dr. Miller, anything else?
So.
No.
Okay, you seem to be better, Greta.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. The question had to do with the plan for or discussion about an orthopedic outpatient surgery, and then having people go home. And I'm wondering how that is moving along. I have some real concerns about it, and wanted to actually be a part of that conversation if that was going to continue.
You're talking about the same day surgery,
Yes.
Outpatient total joint replacement program, is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
So we have not moved forward with that yet. We're still in the planning stages, and I'd be happy to invite you to the meetings where we discuss it, if you would like.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Is there anything else, Dr. Miller? No? Okay, thank you very much. Moving on to the woman that has never found a syringe that she doesn't like. Our CNO, Aaron Woolley. Aaron, where'd you go?
Take yourself off mute, Aaron.
I'm off mute. Can you hear me?
Oh, there it is. Yeah.
Okay. Yes, Ron, you know what makes my heart happy, and that is giving shots. So it sounds like Nancy's coming back for pharmacy and Greta's coming back for nursing, but Ron, I think you worked EMS for a few years, right? So are you going to be running with the EMS crew?
That's good.
He's going to change the oil in the ambulance.
Perfect. Roger will be so happy to hear this. Yes, I'll give you guys some COVID updates. Again, keep in mind that these are about a week and a half old at this point, but COVID numbers and case counts are going down. That's the direction we want to see them. Vaccines are going up. That's the direction we want to see those going. And because COVID cases are dropping, we are concluding our efforts at drive-through outpatient swabbing here at the hospital. So we will certainly offer COVID swabs and tests in the confines of an emergency department or walk-in clinic visit. So if somebody's presenting with symptoms, we will certainly continue to offer COVID testing for those that are symptomatic, but folks that are testing for travel or pre-procedurally will need to find another location to obtain that testing. Additionally, Island County Public Health is offering antigen testing 5 days a week, I believe, and information about that can be found on their website. The retail pharmacies around town are also offering several different modalities for COVID testing. So we are going to close down our drive-through and focus our efforts in some other ways, like offering COVID vaccine boosters at our retail pharmacy, which, as Dr. Miller mentioned, did get started this week and is going very well. So for folks that are looking to get a boost dose, you can navigate your way to our website and click on the link and schedule yourself. Just keep in mind that those vaccines are being given at the retail pharmacy. So if you received your series here at the hospital, just know that you'll be at the retail pharmacy. It works just as well over there as it did over here. And it's we've been having a lot of fun getting that off the ground this week. So I will share a few other things. We talk a lot about recruitment, but we are making some positive strides here, and all thanks to the work that our Human Resource Department is doing. But again, happy to welcome Terry Garrett as our ICU Respiratory Therapy Manager. Terry has served with us as a house supervisor here for years and has an EMS and ED background, and will, as well as an ICU background, will be leading the helm over there. And Michael Ave is joining us, another internal move, joining us as our Surgical Services Director. So very happy to welcome Michael to the nursing leadership team. We do still have a couple of management positions open in nursing management. So we are looking for a nursing administrative supervisor as well as a hospice palliative care manager position. So please keep folks in mind for those positions. And then of course we have several nursing needs as well as ancillary needs that you can see here. So we are interested in hiring LPNs, RNs, respiratory therapists, unit coordinators, social workers, CNAs. So again, if you have friends or family that are medically inclined, please have them apply with us. We have many different positions open. We're offering many different hours that are conducive to people's lifestyles. So we have 12-hour shifts, we have 8-hour shifts, and are happy to be creative with our scheduling so that we can get these positions filled. So moving on, just a few notable things that are fun. We did install our low temperature sterilizer. So this is a vaporized hydrogen peroxide device that adds just another tool in the way that we can sterilize surgical equipment. This is really fantastic because it helps us clean very delicate equipment like cameras and scopes and batteries. So you can see Allison there posing next to the low temperature sterilizer. So happy to have that on board. Excited that our, yes, sorry?
Did she name it? Did she name it?
She did name it. So it is named Dawn after our former surgical services director. So Dawn will always hold, Dawn Terrell will always hold a special place in our hearts and will forever be immortalized with our new vaporized hydrogen peroxide machine that she was instrumental in bringing to Whitby Health. And so yes, Allison named it and its name is Dawn, and we are happy to have it.
Good.
So our birthplace team is working on a baby resource fair so that we can help connect young and growing families with agencies across the island that help support young and growing families. So look for that in spring of 2022. And if you listening to this board meeting and are an agency that helps these young families, we would be happy to talk with you about hosting a booth and meeting some of our growing families. So that is some exciting work that we're eagerly planning now. And I'm very pleased to announce that our hospice team is developing and deploying some education to long-term care facilities across the island about how to support patients, residents, and families that are at end of life. As you heard, our hospice program is growing and we believe it will continue to grow. And we want to ensure that patients and residents are getting great care at end of life. So we're happy to help provide some education. So that is ongoing. And we have a few other fun things happening here. I'm pleased to talk about the LACE scoring that our transitions of care team uses to look at readmission risk in high-risk patients and then help plan interventions that will ensure that folks can avoid a readmission to the hospital. And some things that the team has identified that patients need some help with after discharge is obtaining medications, particularly cardiac and respiratory medications. So our team has been able to help facilitate patients getting those new medications, taking those as prescribed and avoiding a readmission. So that's really some great work that's being done there. We have brought on Q testing, which is actually some COVID-19 testing that is available for folks to purchase for at-home use as well, but it is a type of PCR testing and is authorized here at Whitby Health for us to use with our employees. So it offers a quick 20-minute turnaround time on getting a COVID test back. And as you can see, it integrates pretty easily with the smartphone. So again, this is designed for point of care COVID testing. And I obviously don't work for or receive any funds from Q to recommend this product, but it's very accurate product. It's working very well for employee testing. And like I said, it is available for home use if anybody was so inclined to procure that kind of testing for themselves at home. You can navigate over to the Q website and look at that for purchase for yourself, but working very well here. And we're happy to have this. It is provided to us by the Department of Health. So happy again for the state to help support our efforts to test staff and get them a quick diagnosis. And also very happy about some work that is happening in our emergency department, being led by our manager, Debbie Reese there, as well as the ED team and the provider teams to really make sure that patients are engaged in their discharge. So really spending time at the bedside, going over the discharge plan, making sure that folks understand how to follow up with care and what they need to do at home to make sure that they are treating themselves appropriately after they have sustained an injury or an illness that went into our ER. So really doing an overhaul of the process that we use to discharge patients to make it a much more robust process. So some great work there. And that is about the extent of my report today. Are there questions for me?
And I don't have a question. I just want to yet again say thank you to you personally and to your team for all that you did for COVID, for the population of the island. I personally think, and I've heard some comments from this about from friends and neighbors who voted for the levy lift, that was one of the big reasons that people did vote for the levy lift. And I want to thank you for your efforts in that regard.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's been my pleasure.
I think every one of us board members heard the same thing, that the whole team there, you guys did a great job, really impressed the county, the people living on the island here, of what they were able to do here at Whitby Health. You kind of brought us to the forefront. We really appreciate that, and thank you. Anything else for Erin? She's turning red, blushing. Okay, thank you, Erin. Moving on to quality. John, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Now, before you do start, I think everybody needs to know that both you and Brett did quite a show yesterday for us, bringing us up to speed on a lot of things. So we do appreciate your efforts yesterday, and hopefully you'll have some more today.
All right, thank you. All right, moving into the quality report. Big ticket item for us is policy medical, and that project that went underway at the beginning of this year. It's with a pretty heavy lift. It was a lot of cleanup, reorganizing our policy system so that we could organize our policies, procedures, everything under document control in a more effective and accurate manner. To date, we have 492 policies that are overdue. We are looking at a completion deadline of December 31. And then going into next year, we'll have, and that's more of a soft deadline because we understand that there's a lot to be done here. But we're looking at a little bit more of a harder deadline around the June, July 2022 timeframe, where we will start to archive all of those outdates and make sure that they're not in the system. And the reason for that is it's one of the principles of our new accreditation with DNV and our ISO 9001 certification that we're going to be rolling out a lot more education on in 2022. Document control is one of the centerpieces to it, and making sure that we have clear work instructions, eliminating all old work instructions, conflicting information from our policy set that we possibly can. So that's the work that we'll be undertaking for the remainder of this year and most all of 2022. We've had a breakthrough in a lot of ways, but we do have, in terms of getting reporting, getting data from certain departments, we have had some challenges in some areas. We're hoping with some leadership changes that we'll see that reverse. With our restraint documentation, we've not seen our compliance goal reach our threshold as of yet. There have been a lot of changes that have been made to the workflow that Erin and her team and my team are working on. And we're hoping that with these accommodations, with entry, that we'll start to see these, we'll start to see the requisite improvements with our restraint process. There's a couple of shout outs for stellar work that's been done, two programs in particular, infection prevention and antimicrobial stewardship. From an infection prevention standpoint, to date, we still had, from an NHSN reportable standpoint, no surgical site infections, which is remarkable. Internally, we've had 5 because we do have a pretty stringent set of criteria. We don't exclude anything. So if it looks like it, whether it meets definition for NHSN or not, we call it that. We investigate it appropriately with the epidemiological investigation. We look at causal factors, and we try to mitigate it from happening again. So we treat it seriously internally, and we've not had repeat instances every time we've done that to date. But from a outside external reporting standpoint, no surgical site infections. Again, remarkable. From a C. diff standpoint, we also had 0 C. diff infections in the month of September. That's the first time that's happened since 2018. We've only had 1 ESBL, multi-drug resistant organism, generally found in urine cultures for the month of September, and that's the first time since 2015. With the volumes that we've got in place right now, that makes it even more remarkable that we're having generally more volumes than from those 2 reporting years. We did have the Department of Health send their infection prevention assessment team out to us, and they had a focus on our COVID-19 processes. That took place on 10/5. We had a phenomenal review. No opportunities were identified. They provided a standard resource, but essentially they called our management of the program remarkable. From an antimicrobial stewardship program, I would really call this program out under the leadership of Colleen Clamar, infection preventionist, Tony Triplett, our director of pharmacy. I believe that that's one of the biggest attributing factors, if not the most direct attributing factor, to our significant decrease in our C. diff and ESBL rates. So again, stellar work from both of those programs. Another program that is doing a lot of great work is our utilization management team. We've had to date 68% of our denial successfully overturned by that utilization management team. The new process for write-offs took our rate from 2019 to 2020 into a hugely positive direction. So to give you some numbers on that, in 2019, in denials, we wrote off of just under $190,000. In 2020, the write-off amount was $10,582. Year to date, so far this year, our write-offs have only added to $4,555. Again, remarkable turnaround in our write-off rate, directly attributable to the hard work from Aaron's team, civilly person leading that team, Tabitha this year. Okay, from a patient experience standpoint, our composite mean has plateaued around 4.6. This is the range in which we're really not seeing a whole lot of degrees of movement, either up or down. The main reasons really are attributable to scheduling and reception. Again, those have really not changed from the inception of our measurement in the new system. Biggest contributing factor to this for the month of October was complaints around access, around being able to schedule an appointment, and that's via just having access onto the calendar to be able to get into this appointment, and also to reach it via phone. Historically, that was a mixture of issues, and some of that you heard yesterday regarding how the technical aspects of the phone system have been mitigated. But we're still running into the other aspect of that phone access, and that's staffing. What we're still finding is that from a complaint standpoint from patients, and from as we've been working with areas on what the nature of this issue really consists of, it's mailboxes that become full because we're not for staffing shortages from a workflow standpoint. We don't have people checking and clearing, calling back on those messages. We've made some inroads into that, but that was one of the biggest factors behind some of the patient comments that we received. And even when they were leaving messages, they weren't always reliably being called back or contacted. So that's the nature of our scheduling and access that we still do need to focus quite a bit on. Right?
John, could I ask a question while we're on this topic?
Absolutely.
We know from other data that you've given us that patient experience reports from the ED and inpatient have all gone up, have become more positive. Why isn't that offsetting the ongoing complaints of scheduling such that our composite mean goes up?
Because when you look at our scores across the board, Kurt, it's doing this. It's really, as we're seeing rises in some of those domain categories, we're seeing that scheduling and reception is not improving, and that accounts for quite a bit of our negative comments that we receive, and it impacts our scores accordingly.
Okay. Well, as we learned yesterday, with the improvements to the phone system that are hopefully drawing to an end in terms of working out the difficulties, hopefully we'll see a big rise in the positive comments about scheduling and a decrease in the negative.
Absolutely, that has to have a positive effect. You know, one of the things that, and I believe we've talked about this, I think in this setting and some other settings, is in other organizations where they have a phone access option where you can call in, and if someone can't answer your call, rather than even leaving a message, you're just put into a queue for callback that says, do you opt to be called back, contacted about your appointment, chief complaint? Those are the kinds of things, those are kinds of features in a phone system that I think will continue to improve our scores as we onboard more of those capabilities. So we heard yesterday, we took care of a lot of our technical issues with the phones. Now we have to take care of the staffing issue that's impacted.
And it really is the change of culture. You know, we're changing slowly the culture, but it's that culture of people, customer service is number one, and that's hard to change. But we're making inroads. John is really pushing this just culture and looking at the quality indicators, and it's going to help.
Right. Absolutely. Thank you, Ron. So when we look at our risks to the organization, the way how we've classified our chief risks right now, it kind of ties into what we've been talking about, staffing throughout the system, multiple positions and housing availability for applicants. One of our chief external factors as well. The high cost of housing, the availability of housing has historically been one of several challenges to getting some of these positions filled. And then the other part is we have a very competitive healthcare marketplace right now. We are in the same race for these people resources as other healthcare organizations, bigger than us and smaller than us. Right now, traveling work is very lucrative, as you've heard. A lot of interim positions. This is where people go to really get their paycheck, get that bigger payday that sometimes being stationary in one organization doesn't afford them. Those are the challenges. It's a changing marketplace that we have to adapt to. Phone system across the organization, as you see this being our risk, probably will be dropping this off our chief risk list as we see those technical issues resolve some of those challenges. And then number 3 continues to be multiple electronic health record systems. And I foresee that being the case until we're able to integrate to a consolidated system. All right. Next slide, please. Bless you. Okay, and so then I just have my corporate compliance update for you later on.
What's that? I couldn't hear him.
I didn't hear. So could you repeat that?
Oh, did I? Oh, sorry. I have my corporate compliance report out to you for you later on. So unless there's any questions.
Yeah. All right. That's great.
Okay. Is there anything else, John?
No, sir. That's it.
Not hearing you.
That's it.
Okay. Any questions for John? No questions for John? Okay. Thank you, John.
Yeah.
Moving on. Brett's going to tell us how everything got resolved.
Again.
Our IT report.
It's interesting, you know, I can't believe a year's almost gone by from my, coming through our front doors here, and been kind of recapping in my mind some of the things that we've accomplished this year. And I am looking to put together a summary of what 2020 has meant to this organization as far as IT contributions. There's been a lot of stuff we've had to clean up, and I kind of want to, a lot of work that's been done and a lot of progress that's been made, and I want to kind of summarize that and look forward to bringing that to the group next month at the next board meeting. But I only have one update really for today, and that's the ongoing one with the IT insourcing. And so we're making progress. I was going to say that we're down to 4 open positions at this point in time, but unfortunately I've had my first resignation occur today, so it'll be 5. But 2 of those, I think we're right on the cusp of some new hires. So we're getting really, really close of having our department fully staffed well ahead of the transition of Allscripts and their outsourcing services leaving in March. So I'm very pleased with that. Hopefully we can, we can wrap up these few remaining positions by the end of the year, and that'll still give us 3 months to just make sure that all the knowledge transition has occurred, so that when they leave, it has no effect on our organization, and it's business as usual, and we can start looking towards 2022 as the year we really start to take advantage of technology to advance our organization. So that's my only update for today.
Well, we appreciate that, and I appreciate the fact you spent quite a bit of time with us yesterday, really bringing us up to speed. That was really helpful. Thank you.
Very much so. Thank you.
I really appreciated that time. It was well spent.
And for those who are listening and wondering what he told us yesterday, it was all relative to the phone system, the pros, cons, and how we're finally reaching what appears to be the solution we've always wanted. So anyway, that's
the short of the long in that is that it's been a long and difficult road. The platform that we're using is a good company, is a very big organization. It was the right decision, but there's been a number of things that we had to resolve for a variety of reasons. But I think we are, as I presented yesterday, on the very cusp of wrapping up a couple of more little things, and we'll have a stable platform with which to go forward on. And to John's point earlier about some additional functionality, such as a queue callback. And you're probably everybody on this video conference today is very used to having the opportunity in a lot of service industries to not have to wait on the phone, but to be able to leave your number and then you get a call back when your name moves up in the queue. And that is functionality that we can also add to our phone system. So there's some additional things that we are looking forward to actually starting to take advantage of as we wrap up some of these operational or functional issues rather with our phone system.
Both you and John, I appreciate the fact, and we spent about 3 hours together yesterday going through all the things and bringing us up to speed. And, it really paid off to do that versus trying to do it at a board meeting, that we're trying to get through the whole agenda. So appreciate your taking the time out yesterday. Thank you very much.
You bet.
Okay, any other questions for Brett? Moving on to Tim. He's going to tell us how wonderful everything is, right, Tim?
Everything is wonderful. For those of you that were in the building prior to the board meeting, you probably heard some noise going on. The boiler chiller project is moving along very well on schedule, actually probably a little bit ahead of schedule, and everything is staying under budget and going well. We're in the process of coring holes into the foundation to run the flues out for the new hot water boilers. An old tank from an old Culligan system has been removed to allow room for the new storage tank. And so, yeah, there's a lot of work going on. We are expecting the chiller to be here next week and the pumps. So we're hoping to have one crane lift scheduled next week to get everything up on the roof. All the bracing for the new chiller has been completed, and everything with that project is moving along very well and prior to the end of the year, and start seeing the savings on the energy as far as with the newer equipment. So very positive. The USDA for phase 1, we have paused that project and any work at this time for that. Aldridge was willing because they did come out and do a site walkthrough and kind of really dig a little bit deeper. They did go ahead on their own and finish up pricing for schematic design, budget pricing. So we do have that, and when we are ready to proceed with that and put them back to work, we will at some point be bringing those numbers to the board and making some decisions on phase one. We are continuing, we're prepping to put the MRI pad in out in front of the ER. Electrician today is here working on kind of, hopefully we're going to reuse the existing power and wire that's going out there and hopefully not have to upgrade anything other than put a new plug in. And we should see the pad going in very shortly. So that work is moving along. We're hoping, we pulled out the, from phase one, we pulled out the MRI and CT portion and put numbers to that. We're finalizing those numbers and hoping to present those shortly because we do have a possibility of a $500,000 grant, and the patient has raised close to $500,000 in addition to that, so that we could possibly do the MRI CT suite sooner and start that going prior to doing the rest of phase one. That would, if things stay on schedule, would hopefully start next fall. The secure room in the ED. So we made some headway yesterday. We had a meeting with the Department of Health, Kevin Scarlett, finalized some comments that they needed resolved, got their information. So the comments have been updated. We're expecting to receive approval for construction this week, if not by the end of next week. And then we'll update the drawings because we did make some changes that are going to add to the cost a little bit. And then we'll get those drawings rebid because the bids, this has been taking so long with the Department of Health and going through this process. We want to get updated current numbers. And that project, hopefully within the next 30 to 60 days, will start moving forward. That project is being supported by donations from the foundation that were raised. So greatly appreciate the work that the foundation's doing to help us get some of these things accomplished, even though we have some money, struggles right now. As Dr. Miller alluded to, we did move Rehab North down to Maine, and that went very well, and they're very happy in there and doing really good. We got the Clinton air handler installed and up and running on the clinic down in Clinton, and it's running really good. We had the fire marshal and the new city engineer, Scott, came in and certified the hood that we had to put in a new fire suppression system into the hood per DNV. And that was installed, a while back, but we finally were able to get that certified and approved so that we're up to code on that. So that's all positive. And today, right now, we're performing our annual med gas inspection. Something we have to do every year, inspect. They go around and inspect all the med gas ports throughout the facility, all the lines, and make sure everything's up to code and working. And if there's any deficiencies, then we immediately get them corrected. Some upcoming things. I took Ron on a walkabout today a little bit to show him some of the struggles that we are facing. Now that we've covered all the good news, we'll cover some of the bad news.
No. That is wrong. He tried to show me how much he needs money.
No. Well, as the board knows and everybody knows, we have, an infrastructure and the facilities that have been, neglected for a while. And a lot of our things through our, that we've looked at, a lot of our stuff is, 30 years or beyond. It's beyond end of life. The engineering team does a great job maintaining this equipment and keeping it running, but eventually everything, there comes a point in time where you can't do that anymore. Our software system is, it's to the point where we're probably going to have to replace it. It's 30 plus years old. It's very important to soften the water. That's, Coupeville water is not the greatest. It's very hard, about 23 to 25 grains hardness. It's hard on pipes. It's hard on boilers. It's, we have steam boilers that are producing the steam for the autoclaves that sterilize the surgical equipment. So it's a very important system. So we're probably going to have to update that. And I've been being proactive on some of these things and already have pricing in place. We had budgeted some of this for next year, but unfortunately, we're probably going to have to do it a little bit sooner. So we're probably looking at getting a new softener in the near future. And then our RO system, which is a reverse osmosis system. So basically that gives you very pure water before it goes into the boilers. If that RO system's not functioning properly, when they do sterilization on instruments for surgery, they'll get white residue on those instruments. And, you know, obviously that's not acceptable. So we're looking at, I've had an engineer working on the whole boiler system as far as the sterilization part of it, to put together a package and a proposal. So he's expected to have that out very soon, but we are, like I said, going to have to probably replace the RO system and the softener system in the very, probably within the next few months here. So that's the bad news, but it's something that as we expected, but also, you know, I've been keeping Jennifer in tune with everything. So she's aware of these things, these expenditures, you know, and we're always trying to plan for them as best we can. So the only other thing that I have to report out is we're hoping very soon that the next commerce grant will be opened up, and we're going to be applying for that. It was one that we didn't get the first time around. We got 2 other grants, but we did not get this particular one. So we held off on doing a couple of air handlers. So we're hoping that this time around we'll get this grant and be able to address a couple air handlers in the near future. So that is all I have at this time. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
I do have a question, Tim. What is the life expectancy on our 2 elevators?
The new ones or the older ones?
The older ones. The older ones.
Well, I've been working closely with Kone. I actually had, and Ron's aware of this, I had them go through, and because we will be replacing some of these elevators, the older ones will be going away in the future. So I don't want to do a complete refurbish of these elevators. We actively did some repairs to them that proactively did these repairs to buy time. But they gave us their recommendations. And I did this at my last facility, where I just had the people that maintain them go through everything and give us their recommendations and put prices to that. And so we have addressed a number of those things by the time, because we don't really, you know, it's about $50,000 per floor to refurbish an elevator. And we don't want to stick that kind of money into an elevator that we are eventually going to be tearing out. We did some work actually on the new elevators also because they tried to save some money, and they put vegetable oil into the oil side of the hydraulics, and we had to replace that because it wore out some valves prematurely. And so the second elevator in the new building, we went ahead and did that also. So, you know, but typically, I mean, elevators, I've seen 30, 40 years on them as long as they're maintained and taken care of, and you do things proactively.
Thank you.
Tim, we do want to mention, really appreciate the fact you guys done a great job going out trying to find every grant possible. You know, that you guys have been proactive on that and did a great job of getting us the grants that are out there available. So I do want to commend you on that and your staff for working and getting us all we can.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Tim? No. Thank you. Okay, moving on. Strategic incentive update, Kevin.
All right, thank you, Ron. Appreciate it. So first thing I want to dig into would be our phone systems and the impact that it has on our patient experience. First, I'd like to give some kudos to Brett and to the IT team, all the work they have done. And also some kudos out to Kristen and her team out at Cabot. They've put a lot of work into working out the kinks of the phone system. This chart You can see that of the calls that came into Cabot, 60% of them were handled by the agent. And that's our highest volume location when it comes to phone calls. They, in October, had 7,400 incoming calls that team took. And 10% abandon is much higher than we want, although at times it has been higher, and we've been working diligently to get that down. So kudos to both of those teams. Now, our second highest volume location is central scheduling. And this is where the challenge has really been as of late. And a big part of that is that Maria and Sheree lost a large number of their employees, both to internal moves and also to external transitions, people leaving Whitby Health and going elsewhere, predominantly centered around, because this is an entry-level position, centered around higher wages that they were able to get elsewhere. And so where Marie and Sheree typically have had 9 individuals to man the front desk and all of the scheduling calls that come in, now when it comes to scheduling, they are down to 2. And so they had 5,500 calls that came in the month of October, with 2 individuals trying to field all of those calls, which means that when it came to phone calls that were handled by the agent, meaning they picked up the phone and they were able to answer that call, it was less than 10%, which is pretty rough. That has a significant impact on our patients. Now, while I say this, I do want to recognize Marie and Sheree and the creativity and efforts that they've put in. You'll find that Marie and Sheree were staffed in, either on the phones or at the front desk or at Clinton, a variety of places, while they try to just keep things moving forward. And there are some significant efforts, not only by them creatively to try and sort this out, but also with other teams. For example, Brett is looking at technologies that can help reduce the burden, especially allowing people to do some of that registration before they even arrive on site, or sitting in the lobby on their cell phone. But as you know, it takes time for those kind of solutions to come to bear. And the more important solution, Debbie DeCordy and the HR team looking to recruit more individuals. It would be really convenient if we were able to just raise our wages across the board. But as many of you know, it's more complex than that. We have union agreements and contracts and a variety of different things that have to be negotiated and worked through in order for us to be able to raise rates and become more competitive in the market and be able to attract the kind of talent that we need for centralized scheduling. And I know that Debbie and her team have been working diligently on that, working to put those things in place so that we're able to recruit and retain the people that Maria and Sheree will need up there. So I just wanted you to be aware of the work that is taking place. And I want to make sure that our patients know that we are not blind to the difficulty that they have in reaching us, especially those who are trying to schedule things like diagnostic imaging and lab and stuff like that. When they call, it is hard for them to reach us right now. We're totally aware of that and promise that we are not being negligent. So that is a work in progress and an important one that I wanted to make sure you were aware of and knew the details of. Next slide. So the executive leadership team put a lot of work into that strategic plan, and next steps on that is to gather the executive leadership team and establish specific goals for 2022 based on this strategic plan, and then to roll that down to our frontline leaders to help them also establish frontline goals that are aligned. So that meeting has been scheduled And we're looking forward to gathering to take those next steps. All right, and the last slide. So employee engagement. The plan was to, here in the last quarter of the year, do the Gallup survey again, but the decision was made by the executive leadership team that there was a lot going on, and that while we could run the employee engagement survey, we did not have capacity with everything going on to actually act on it, which would be worse than running it and then not being able to do anything. So the decision was made that we will defer that over into the first quarter. So that will be delayed a little bit. Wanted to make sure everybody knew that. And we're looking forward to it. When the employee engagement survey is run correctly, and we've put a lot of work into structuring it and setting it up correctly. Our Employee Engagement Advisory Council put a lot of work into making sure that everything was in place. It builds awareness and allows for a lot of discussion with those teams before the survey ever even comes out. And so you can gain a lot as an organization just by having the conversations and the questions. It allows frontline leaders, managers, and supervisors to engage their teams and to look at the questions before the survey ever comes out, allowing teams to ask questions, become familiar with it, and also have discussions around, hey, what are we doing around employee engagement? And then after the survey comes out, then you have a chance to further that discussion by saying, okay, here's where we are. What are we going to do next? So that we're all on the same page. That's where we are with the employee engagement survey, and it's ready. And when we get into that first quarter, then we'll go ahead and put it out there. All right, Ron, I'm going to turn it back over to you for questions, and it's all yours.
Do we have any questions of Kevin? No. And I know, Kevin, you have given us a option for this next year, and the board all has that, and they'll be reviewing that and getting back this next month.
Very good.
And if there's no other questions, we'll go into our administrator's report. Ron, I'm going to step out and see Jake real quick while you do your little brief.
Sure. First of all, I want to thank the community. I know we all thank them. I know it was a hard levy fight, but it really showed appreciation for what we do. It showed support for where we're going. And I just want to make sure that the money's used, which will be in May.
Starting in
May, will be used to retain and recruit staff. That is a priority. The other priority is to give the infrastructure the needed cash it needs. It is not going to my salary, it won't go to salaries of administration, but it's really going to the salaries or the hourlies of staff. That is what it's for. That being said, and Kevin, you want to come in with your gift? Kevin,
I'm here.
Do you want to come in with your gift?
I do. I'll be right down.
But with that is really a sad and a loss that we are going to lose you. You have helped me personally, and I want to thank you for that. I think you helped me grow. You were there when I became CEO. And you have given this administration and this board a lot of insight to the public, a lot of insight to our community. But you have always given us a priority of the people. And that's really high and really hard and really talented. And that's really impressive. So again, Kevin on his own went out and brought this to you, and it is
as long as Ron didn't get it.
Yeah. At the same point, we welcome Mr. Golder, and we hope, and we really do hope that he learns our business and he learns our mission as you have done. So thank you.
Yeah, you can. I'll let you undo that. Well,
for those of you who can't totally see this, Ron has been speaking about Kurt's Blankenship, and Kurt will.
First, I want to say that I'm very, very touched, and I thank you for your kind comments. As I've said to all of you since the election, it has been a great honor and privilege to work with all of you to do our best for this community in terms of preserving and expanding healthcare. And I think that we have made significant progress in doing that through our own collaboration and efforts. We've had a very harmonious working relationship on the board, and I certainly hope that continues. I think that the levy lift passing was a vote of encouragement for us that we should really be genuinely pleased about. I think the voters of the island want the hospital to stay. They want it to improve. And I know that everyone at this table and in the administrative team and all of the hospital staff are dedicated to making that happen. I will miss working with you guys very, very much. I'm certainly not going to miss the 7 a.m. board meetings. But I do wish everyone the best in success and continued success of the hospital, and I'm confident that will happen. And thank you again. This is very, very nice. Did Ron make this in ceramics?
We have a local artist named Dan Ishler. If you're on the south side of Whitby right there, he has a studio right at the top of the hill before that first light. Mm-hmm. This was done in a salt kiln, so it has that the white spotted kind of.
Oh wow!
But yeah, he's super talented. It's fun to see the work that he's done. If you have a chance to stop and see his studio,
I will do that.
Really amazing stuff.
I will do that, and thank you for your involvement in getting this. Appreciate it.
I've really enjoyed working with you.
Thank you, Cal.
All right, I'll see you again soon.
The one lesson learned that I learned in the levy that we all heard of various reasons why we shouldn't vote for the levy was the fact that we have to be more transparent. We think we're transparent. We have to be more transparent. Because if staff or a community or doesn't know the truth, they will make one up on their own. And
we certainly found that out.
And that is a lesson learned that I did. But anyways, that's all, Mr. Right.
Okay, you remember my name? My name's Ron.
Yeah. Mr. Wallen, that's it.
So, no, I'll tell you what, I mean, it's all of us when we got on, you learn a lot more than you thought. I mean, there's just so much, it's so complex, the whole, the running a hospital, and you find out meeting with other boards, they're going through the same things. I mean, you go down, you find out that, Providence has a bunch of travelers down there and a bunch of locums, and Island does, and Skagit does, that we're all faced with that shortage. They're all hurting for nurses, with staff all the way through. When you find out that a huge hospital like Providence is going through diverts because they don't have the staff. It's a shortage of doctors, nurses, and support personnel. I don't mean to just put the two in there. It's all of the personnel, all of it across the board. So, Kurt and I really appreciated working with you and the fact that, it's been a good collaboration and you brought a lot to us. So really appreciate all your efforts.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And don't leave us. Yeah, don't forget us. Stay around.
Thank you.
So, I think we have one more thing before we go into executive session. We need to get Jake in here. We have several resolutions. Just so the public knows, we have 6 resolutions, and then we have the bylaws that was in this packet. Look at that.
Oh. Oh, these, the bylaws from the packet, I think this was just when they were approved, the changes to the bylaws in February of this year, they never got signed. So I think
yeah, we just need to have them go around and get signed. So anyway, once we've gone through all the resolutions, then we will be going into executive session to, I'll have you state all the facts for that, Jake, when we get to there, but we got 6 resolutions to deal with first.
Okay. So, and there's a little bit of change from the agenda. As we would normally approve, Resolution 420 would have been for the regular levy increase, as we do that every year. I got clarification from the auditor's office today that we actually don't need a resolution for the regular levy increase because we just got it from the voters.
Okay.
So we don't need it. So 420, Resolution 420 is now the resolution, and here, I'll pass these out.
Now the EMS levy.
It's the EMS increase resolution.
Does Greta have a copy of them?
I emailed them to Greta, and so she should have that.
Because we only need to sign
Right,
one.
there's only going to be one sign, right.
So this resolution increases the EMS levy by $124,871.50, which is a 2% increase from the previous year. Now, something that we learned too is that we could ask for a 10% increase, right? But we are limited by law in terms of what we can actually get. And so we're actually asking for a little bit more than what we normally would, just so that we don't inadvertently leave any money on the table, because they will not ever give us more money than what we ask for, if that makes sense. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me sometimes, but.
And they calculate that.
And they will, well, there are 4 limiting factors on which that may limit our levy increase each year. One is a 1% increase. The second is what we approve in the meeting. The third is our statutory limit. And the fourth is what we request through our certification that we send out by the end of the month. And they will take the lowest of the 4. And so then the challenge is, well, you don't want to leave anyone too low and let that be your limiting factor when you could have gotten a little bit more through something else. So that's why for the EMS increase, we're asking for a 2% increase. We may not get it, but we will get hopefully up to the total amount that we should be entitled to.
So is that Resolution 420?
That is Resolution 420 submitted for your
review and
I
approval.
move that we approve resolution number 420.
I second the motion.
Moved and seconded for approval of resolution number 420. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
So moved.
Okay, so this.
Kurt, if you have 420 there, if you want to sign it and hand it to Nancy.
That would be great. So this next one is Resolution 421, which is the increase for our bond levy. Again, increasing it by $66,880.21, which is a 2% increase from the previous year. Again, same thing. We may not actually get a 2%, but it's just a little bit higher to ensure that we're not leaving any money on the table that we might otherwise be entitled to.
And just so the public understands, this is separate from the recent levy.
This is separate from the recent levy. This was the bond levy that was passed, I think, back in 2013 for the construction of the new hospital wing. So it's to pay off that debt for the construction of the new hospital wing.
And the 2% increase, again, is more than the 1% authorized by law. But as you explained,
Right.
We don't want to leave anything on the table.
Right.
So, and we've done this every year since the levy, bond levy was passed.
Right. So that is submitted for your approval.
Move to approve resolution number 421.
Second.
Moved and second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
So moved.
Okay, so resolution 422 is the resolution adopting the legal budget, having viewed or considered the finances for fiscal year 2022. Section 1 contains the regular property tax levy, any refund levies that we have available, the EMS levy, and the bond levies, the amounts. And the amounts listed are the maximum amounts that we could be entitled to under the law. Again, not to say that these are the amounts that we will receive, but for the same purpose of reserving our ability to collect the full amount that we can.
I move that we approve resolution number 422 regarding the legal budget.
Second the motion.
Moved in second for approval. Is any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So moved.
All right, so the last resolution that I have here is resolution 423, and this is regarding the Bayview property that we're under contract with Eagle Development Group, and the title company did not like our meeting minutes and or the previous resolution that we had signed. It was not specific enough for them, specifically authorizing and granting Ron Tellis the authority to act as the signer for the closing, and specifically authorizing the sale of this piece of property to Eagle Development Group. So
they wanted the parcel number and the legal description.
Well, right, and they wanted yes, parcel number, legal description, and specifically authorizing this piece of property. So this is really to satisfy the requirements from the title company, but this authorizes Ron Tellis, the CEO, it authorizes and directs Ron to facilitate the sale of the property identified in Exhibit A, and identifies him as the authorized signer for the district for any documents necessary to complete the transaction.
I move approval of resolution number 423 regarding the sale of the Bayview property.
I second the motion.
Moved in second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And to give you an update on that too, so the closing should be within the next week or two, and we will be. We ran into a snag with the parcel because it's a commercial parcel. It's a zone commercial. There's also no access agreement with the state from that parcel to get onto a road. So the title company essentially views that as landlocked, and so does the bank. So we had two options. One would be to wait.
Was that reflected in the appraisals, though?
I
think it was.
I don't recall. So the problem is that the bank would not lend for it without that being granted. So the options were we either wait 9 to 12 months for the state to grant that access agreement, or agree to a seller financed. So they would pay us $200 down with a balloon payment after 2 years. So we moved forward with the seller finance in order to lock in the deal, knowing that, in 2 years the balance would be paid off.
But the amount we're receiving falls within the guidelines of the appraisal as we're required to follow.
Right. And so those are the resolutions I have. Then it looks like the
board meetings.
So 424 and 425 are both in here. 424 is the meeting dates, and then 425 is the work session dates. So to keep things straight, you've got 424 and here's 425. So resolution 424 sets the board meetings for the year 2022 as the second Wednesday of each month at 12 p.m. And the dates as listed. And Resolution 425 sets the board work meeting dates, work session dates, as the first Tuesday of each month at 1 p.m. With the dates listed on the resolution. So those are both submitted for your approval.
Move to approve first resolution number 424 for the setting of the regular board meetings for the year 2022.
Second.
Moved and second. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
So moved.
I also move for approval of resolution number 425, setting the times and dates of the board work sessions for the year 2022.
Second.
Moved and second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
So moved. Dr. Kavenmeyer, you do have a lot of papers to sign your next trip up.
Well, I thought I would drive up after this, after we're done the meeting. I'll come up, so it'll be done today.
Okay.
And that's all the resolutions I have for you.
Yay.
Must be the end of the year.
I know.
Okay. So is there anything else?
Let me have my pen.
Anything else for the board? Otherwise, our next board meeting will be December 8th on Wednesday at noon. We'll get the work thing out to you guys here soon too on the agendas. But if there's nothing else, I take a motion to adjourn, and we're going to go into executive session where no votes will take place. It's just an informative part, some legal issues.
To talk about current or potential litigation under RCW 4231.10(1)(I).
Yeah, there you go. And then basically we would come back in and totally adjourn, but there's no reason to anybody stick around because there will be no other more discussion. So at this time, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Move adjournment of the board meeting.
And second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Dr. Kavenmeyer, we'll have you call in.
Well, Melanie's gonna send out a Zoom invite because we're actually gonna have outside counsel too, and they'll be doing a Zoom in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So look for that in the next 5 minutes.
She's
Take
already.
a little 5-minute break.
You ready to send it?
Yeah, I've got it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Dr. Kavenmeyer, you can wear camis too when you come from nursing. You don't have to go back to the white cap or anything.
You think you're so funny.
Are these all things that need to be signed also that are sitting over here?